Hello, good morning. It's Gail from Blue Rose Paper Treasures here again. We're going to have a look at the envelope punch board and making these spool cards. This won't be a very long tutorial because there's not an awful lot involved in these. It's just mainly stamping and just learning how to use the envelope punch board. I love it. I've had it for a long time. And I would never get rid of it. So we'll just get started. I'll wait a couple of seconds until anybody has popped along. Just hold on a sec. Alrighty, okay. Yeah, I've made these a long time ago for another company. I did I had a workshop that I made for another company, and I've just redone them in Stampin' Up things. I went with my vintage again, and just added a few flowers and whatever. Okay, I'm not really organised this morning. Let's go. I used a combination of a few sets. I used the Forever Blossoms, used Parisian Beauty. I used the musical note, the wire, and a couple of the little birdies out of the Music from the Heart, which I haven't used that set for anything else yet. And I used the script and the flower out of Fanciful Fragrance. That's a mouthful saying that. So I've used all 4 sets, and I don't think any of those are carrying over into the new catalogue. I haven't actually had a look yet, but I don't know if any of those are carrying over. For the Stampin' Up demos that are watching, hope you've had time to have a look through the new catalogue. I said in a couple of videos ago that I would love someone just to create a stamp set that was all leaves. All I wanted was all leaves. And I'm thrilled to say, hang on. In the new catalogue, there's a set, the whole new suite, Forever Green. It was like they designed that for me, so I can't wait to get my hands on that set. And start creating with those, because that was just exactly what I wanted. A stamp set that just had all leaves in it. But anyway, enough about that. Alright, so I just made 3 cards. This one is 4" wide. This one was 3 3¾ this one's a little 3x3. And I made some matching envelopes, only because it would probably these ones would probably fit in a normal one. But I figured we're using the envelope punch board, we might as well make some envelopes with it, because some people don't know how to do that. And I've just decorated the front a little bit. So I thought that was cute. And all I've done was I've done heaps of stamping, and I'll explain what I did there. And everything is ink blended. So if you've got the instructions, you can follow along. And I'll just go through what I've done. Alright, the first one, that one, I'm actually using different paper just so that hopefully you can see it a little bit better than trying to use those subtle colours. You start off with a 11-inch strip, folded in half. I scored it and folded it in half. And this is the same for both sizes. Then we grab our envelope punch board. You're going to punch only at 1 3/8 inch on the scoreboard. You probably can't see that. So you're just going to punch only. I'm hoping this, oh, it's a bit, this is different paper too. It's a bit thicker, so it's going to be a bit harder for me to punch. Flip it over, pop it in, 1 3/8. Then do the other end, 1 3/8, and and 1 3/8. And then you already have it starting to look like the spool. then all you do is you either grab a pair of scissors or you grab a scoreboard. I'll do one with the scoreboard. Sorry, the trimmer. And you just line it up. You're lining up the grooves with your trimming guide. And you can just trim them. Alright, so you're just trimming them. If you can't, one of my trimmers I can't do it with, but this one I can. Or you just grab a pair of, whoops, I'm crashing things. Just grab a pair of longer scissors. It's not quite as accurate, especially with the longer bit. And then just trim down. You can either use your trimmer or just use a pair of scissors to trim the sides. And that card base is already done. Alright. So the next piece we need to do is the pattern side of it. Now what I've done is I've used one piece, so that whole piece is the top and the bottom and the middle for the second card. Now this one just gets scored, punched only at 1 1/8. Same thing, punch, flip it over, punch at 1 1/8, 1 1/8, and 1 1/8. And then all we do is we just trim that at 1 1/8. So you've got two tops, a top and a bottom, and the centre. 1 1/8. Whoops, that doesn't look right. That doesn't look right. I must have done that the wrong size. Oh, I've done a boo-boo. 3 1/2. That looks too big. Oh, I've done something wrong. I've measured it wrong. Oh, I hope my instructions aren't wrong. 3 1/2 by 5 1/4. Oh, something's not right there. 5 1/4. Where's 5 1/4? That doesn't look right. Oh, let me have a look. Yeah, that's way too big. I must have trimmed the wrong measurements. I hope they're not wrong in my instructions. I am just having a quick look. 5 1/4 by 3 1/2. 3 1/2. Why does that look so big? Oh dear. What have I done? Yeah, that's only 3. I've done something wrong. Oh dear. 3 1/2. What have I done? It's 3 1/2. Why does that look so big? Oh, I'm going to have to check my notes on that because that doesn't look right. That's too big. Okay, sorry about that. I will have to check that. But 5 1/4 by 3 1/2. Oh, what have I done? That's 3 inches. And that's 3 1/2. I have no idea what I've done. Alright, I'll have to check my instructions on that because I'm sure I trimmed it the right way. Oh, let me grab another piece. Alright, so it says trim it at 3 1/2 by 5 1/4. So I'm just using scrap. Nope, that's still too wide. I must have written the wrong instructions on that. How bizarre. I wonder if that was 3. No, because then that's too narrow. Oh, I don't know what I've done. Wait, that's right. That's right. Maybe I needed to trim that down. Oh dear, I don't know what I've done, but that should have fit in there, but it's not going to. That's too big. See that? I've made it's too long for some reason. Maybe I needed to trim it at 1 3/8. Ooh. No, because that's wrong. I'm sorry, I'll fix that up. You get the idea. When I fix that up, I will put the right measurements in there. But I made that twice, so I don't know how I managed to do that. So, oops. I don't know what I've done. I'll have to redo that. I do apologise. I made it twice. See? When I did the samples, I made it twice and it fits perfectly. And yet that one's too wide. What have I done wrong? I don't know what I've done wrong. That's bizarre. Alright, I'll have to look into what I did wrong there. Oops. Alright, so that was the point anyway. Alright, just imagine that I have trimmed this the right size. So then you have... Where'd that come from? See, I don't even know where that came from. Oh, there it is. Yeah, I don't know. Isn't that weird? Oh, I better check that. Alright, so then you'll have your 3 pieces. Imagine that's the right size. Maybe that needed to be... Oh, you know what? I didn't trim the sides. Oh, gosh, I'm a dill. That's why it's not right, because I didn't trim the sides. Why didn't someone tell me that? There we go. If we trim that at 1 1/8, now it'll fit. There we go. Now it fits. I just didn't trim the sides. Oh, dear. There we go. Alright, so I didn't make a mistake. I just left out a step. So there's your 3 pieces. So then you'll have... That one will go... flip it around. And then you'll have the top and the bottom for the first card. Oh, phew. I thought I made a mistake then. Alright, so when you've got that... Then you've got the stamping. Now what I didn't have a very inky crumb cake when I did the stamping. And I sort of did a combination of some crumb cake and some soft suede. I guess it depends on how dark you want your images. Mind you, it lightens when you do the blending on the background. But on these ones, to make it a bit clearer for the photos, I did do soft suede. And I haven't blended the pieces, and I actually quite like it without the pieces blended. So you could do it either way. So see the absolute difference between blending the pieces and not blending them. So you could choose either way, but I actually think that looks a lot cleaner. And I have used soft suede on all these pieces. And there are images in the PDF showing you which stamp. So they're the birds and the wire. I've just used corners of some of the flowers, a couple of musical notes, and then all your flowers will go on top of that. And they have another one. With the ribbon, when I tied the bow around that one, the knot, I actually had the ends left over and I didn't want to waste them. So that's what I've used underneath the top and the bottom of that one. I've just used the excess ribbon. I didn't want to waste it. So, and I thought that carried over so that they're both sort of similar. Alright, now that I've worked out that problem, thinking that I made a boo-boo. Alright, the little one, the little 6x6 is a side opening one. So we do the same thing. This is 6x3. Just going to score it at 3 inch. And we're actually going to put the folded side in first. And I think that was... Hang on, let me in my notes. I can't remember if that was 1 inch or... Oh dear. 1 1/8 as well. Alright, so you're starting with the fold in this envelope punch board. So, same thing again. 1 1/8. This is very thick cardstock as well, so it's taking a bit of effort to punch it. Alright, flip it over. 1 1/8. Whoop. Try that one again, it slipped. Oh no, that's right. Alright, and the same thing, just snip that little length between it with a pair of scissors. Right, so that one will be a side opening one. And then you'll get, where's the little one gone? There it is. Then you'll do the front piece the same, and I've just stamped that and just wrapped lots of twine around it. You could use wool, you could use anything to put around there. And that piece and that one is the same size, so you'll punch that and trim the bits so that you've got the inside and the outside of the spool. Alright, I won't, I could do that one. I think that one was 1 inch. So that one's a 1 inch piece. Which way we'll have the pattern paper running that way. So, right, 1 inch, flip it, 1 inch, 1 inch, and 1 inch. Oh dear. And just snip your little piece in between. It's easier with the smaller pieces to snip it. Yeah, like I said, I'm using darker paper so that you can see what I'm doing. Alright, so then that one will get attached. So you'll wrap your twine and everything around it first before it gets attached to the little spool card. And then that's your opening one. Alright, so that's the spool cards. Don't forget to trim your length, which is what I forgot to do. But make mistakes, that's how you learn. Alright, for the envelopes, so this one's a little square one. Now I'll put a link on my blog, on my Facebook page. There's a website called The Crafty Owl. And you can go in there and you can put in your measurements for your envelope in either metric or imperial, and it'll tell you what size cardstock you need to make the envelope. And there's also a box, excuse me, a box buster in there. You can do the same thing. So if you want a box that's 3 inches high by 3 inches wide by 1 inch deep, you just put those measurements in there and it'll tell you what size cardstock to trim to make the envelope or the box. Alright. So for the smaller note card size, it didn't quite fit in our Stampin' Up! 3 inch envelopes. That's why I needed to make one. I think this one was 3 1/8 inch by 3 1/8. I think I made this one just so that it was a little bit bigger to fit that note card in. Because it's a square, it's the same punch and score on all 4 sides. And I think this one was 2 3/4. So 5 1/2 inch square piece to start off with. Go to 2 3/4. And we're going to punch and score. Now, because it's square, all the sides will be 2 3/4. So you just line it back up again. So if one of these score lines doesn't match, then you haven't punched it and scored it on 2 3/4. Alright, 2 3/4. Oh, I forgot to score it. Oh gosh. How about you score it? Alright, so there you have your envelope. Alright, on the back of the envelope punch board is a corner rounder, if you didn't know. So we're just going to round all those corners and just punching it. I use this for rounding it. I don't have a corner rounder punch, I just use this for everything. Alright, so it's all the same, all 4 sides. Just score them, maybe fold them, burnish them. Alright, and it always goes left, right with the bottom over the top. That's just so that it's nice and neat. If you did it the other way, it doesn't look as nice. So you want left, right, and the bottom, and then the top goes down. Alright, so that's your little square one, and that little card will now fit in there. There's enough room in there, and that'll fit in there nicely. So it just needed to be a tiny bit bigger than our envelopes that we sell at Stampin' Up. So there's that one. And then I just decorated it with a bit of the DSP that I used, just some stamping. And that's actually quite good using that. Now the bigger envelope, now of course this one's a rectangle, this one's a little bit different. I started with an 8x8 piece, and this is going to make an envelope that is, let me see, 4 1/8 by 5 5/8. That was the measurements I put in to the Crafty Owl. I measured the bigger of the cards, I measured that, and I just went like 1/8 of an inch bigger, just so there was room around it. Now the score lines on this one is 4 1/2. So this one's a bit different because it's a rectangle. So you punch and you score. Oh, hang on. Punch and score. Next one, you're just going to follow that score line by placing it where that guide is, just there. So you line the score line up with that guide, punch, score, and the same with the other, all three sides. Line it up, punch, score, line it up with that guide again down there, punch, and score. And there's the larger envelope. So just do the same thing, do your stamping on your front, any embellishments you wanted to add. I had an extra flower, so I just put that in on. You obviously wouldn't be able to mail that, but for hand delivery that would be nice. Burnish all your score lines. Alright, so left, right, bottom, and all I did, I just grabbed my tape runner and I just put tape down both sides and folded it over. And that's all you need. So that card now just needed that little bit of extra room, so now that card just fits nicely in that envelope. Okay, and then just decorate it nicely. And that's all there is to these. But so go ahead and make some, show me what you've done. I always like to see. Now I have blended all the pieces, like I said, even the flowers. So I've got a whole bunch here. I blended them with crumb cake because it was just, I have re-inked it since. And yeah, it's a long process, but it's just flipping the edges and just blend all the edges. Blend the edge. Alright, then I grab my paper piercer, put it in my hand, and just pop up the sides. Then I grab a glue dot and attach one to the back, and then I just attach it to the flower. Whoop. Just, whoop, fiddly little suckers. Alright, attach them together with the little flower center, that tiny little one. Let's put a tiny dot, a tiniest little dot of multi-purpose glue on that, and try and pick it up. There we go. Oh dear, doesn't want to pick up. There we go, and just pop that inside. Alright, and then put your pearl or your rhinestone on the top of that. So all the leaves also got blended, even though you can't quite tell with the crumb cake pieces. All the white flowers, I blended the edges of all those. All the edges of all the cardstock, the card base, I've blended the edges, and then I've just used a black marker. I've got a set of all these different size markers, and I've just faux stitched around the edge. because it just set it off, and it was something, otherwise it was quite pale. So just that black faux stitching around the edge, and that's all I did. Don't forget your the insides as well. I just grabbed we've got Mother's Day here in Australia in a couple of weeks. So I just used, I think that Mother's Day stamp was out of, I've only got one Mother's Day stamp, and I couldn't even tell you what that came out of. Oh, that came out of that one, out of Dress to Impress. It's the only Mother's Day stamp I've got. And I've just done some stamping on the inside of that one. Find the other card. And the measurements for these pieces are all on the instructions. Right, the same with that one. I've just used the big flower for that, and I've just used some little ones. But don't forget to do your inside as well. It helps way up the front when you put another piece inside. So that's all there is to those cards. There wasn't not an awful lot of technique or anything. It's just using the envelope punch board, which I guess is another technique. Alright, that's it for me. Sorry for what I thought I stuffed up, but I didn't stuff up. It was right. I just forgot to trim down my length. So those pieces were right. Alright, look at the mess I've made. Alright, this hasn't been one of my better Facebook Lives, so I hope you got something out of it, other than I'm human and I make mistakes. I'll try and come up with something for next Saturday. I really want those new fern leaves now, but I'm going to have to wait till June to get those, but at least it's something to look forward to. Okie doke, go away, have fun, have a nice weekend. We've got Anzac Day here in Australia, so with social distancing, it's all been online, and was standing out the front of their house at 5:30 this morning, so that was really patriotic and nice. Apart from that, it's a beautiful day, so I might go out and do some gardening. Okay, I'll talk to you soon. Bye.